Boom, we are live, ladies and gentlemen. It is a beautiful Sunday morning in the jungle. Well, yeah, as you can tell, I haven't moved anywhere quite yet, although we will be doing that soon. We're going to dive in. We're going to take a look at Bitcoin the way we like to look at the charts. Oh, I'm going to make sure I'm muted in the background because there's always me talking. We're going to go over Ethereum, Litecoin. We're going to take a look at whatever the heck it is you guys would like to look at today. And with that in mind, let's just bebop. Boom. So here we go. We've got Bitcoin on the hourly right now, and there's been a lot of resistance at this $8,000 point. Now we're actually nearing the end of this triangle here that we've been watching the last little while. Our ABCD pattern did not play out the way we had anticipated, but that's okay. Again, this is the point of technical analysis. There's no exact formula. It's just supposed to give you the strongest indicators for what might be coming next. Now, with that in mind, I'm going to redraw this triangle here just so we can get a better look at it. It started right at the pivot of here, is going up. And as you can see, actually, we have a really strong indicator coming through on the hourly. I'm going to have to zoom in here a little bit, and I might have to delete this line to show you. But we have a really strong EMA cross that might be coming. This is where I want to keep my eyes on the most, is actually this area here. Bam, right there. The reason being, this potential crossover here could be disastrous. Well, not disastrous. Again, I would look for more around the $6,500 mark. Now, the interesting thing about ascending triangles is, and one of the hard things about pattern recognition at this level, is that they don't always follow the way you would expect. Now, ascending triangles are usually pattern continuations, which means if you're in a bull market, they generally will continue to go up. If you're in a bear market, they'll generally continue to go down. But as we saw with the last ascending triangle that we were in on a downtrend, it broke out to the opposite side. Now, this is actually commonly the case. These particular indicators don't necessarily indicate if the direction that it's going to go is going to take place. All you can really do is basically grab on the last few minutes of the horn and figure out where you're going. Now, we've actually been declining. As you can see, we couldn't get up to the previous high in volume the last times, and we've been testing exactly the $8,000 area. I've tested it a few times. So we're coming down to test a really, really important part of the price movement today in Bitcoin, right around the $7,800 line. Again, you can see we had some candle wicks down here that brought us right back up off these EMAs. So basically what we have is the bear claw, this beautiful stacked EMA, and again, this is where a lot of the support and resistance is going to come from. And now that you see the EMA is pretty much lining up with their triangle, these are going to be the do or die moments. Now again, just because it's a continuation pattern does not mean it needs to go up. If it breaks to the downside of the triangle, that's the direction it will follow. If it breaks to the upside, again, that's the direction it will follow. So on the upside, for those of you that joined us yesterday, we had made a pretty clear assertion that if you zoom out to the 1 hour chart, you can see quite clearly here that there is the last, I guess, vestige of volume profile support starts first off at 90, sorry, let's see this, let's make sure I got enough data, at 9,457. This is the first line of support. Again, so if we break out to the upside, that's where I suspect we'll go to, is around 9,400. Once we get there, who knows? Again, we are already fairly maxed out, but there's also the possibility of around $11,000 too. This is to the upside. Now to the downside, we actually see exhaustion in the markets. You know, there's a lot of indicators that are leading us to believe that we've been kind of at the top. Now, one of the abstract things I wanted to take a look at today, and I don't suggest this is ever really the case of analysis, but we were looking at this Bitcoin versus Coca-Cola trend line. Now, the reason I'm going to read this here today, because I actually thought this was quite funny. It says, today we decided to compare crypto and the stock markets. On the image above, you can see Bitcoin versus the Coca-Cola company charts. The similarity is obvious, although between the two of Bitcoin and Coca-Cola, there is no obvious similarities. We're just looking at charts here. There's nothing that unifies them, obviously, but the only similarity is that they're both assets and, what's more important, both currencies that are traded. So the value of Coca-Cola depends on the demand for the company, blah, blah. Anyways, the point of this is, a lot of the times, what I want to point out here is you can find correlation, but that doesn't mean there's any causation to those relationships. Now, as you can see at the top of the Bitcoin chart here, comparing it to Coca-Cola's CBOE on the 3-week, there was a continued downtrend that followed this nice little peak up. Now again, we're going to get to find out very quickly what happens in Bitcoin over this next little while, but we had ascertained that we would suspect to see a drop. Now, there's been so much momentum in these markets that everyone's just been screaming bull. Now, I guess the important part to stay focused on here is, again, all of the resistance that we found at $8,000. We didn't see anything at 6,000, yet when we got to 8,000, this volume profile support just kept us locked in. And that's important to note because really a lot of this is sentiments. I know I've always had this weird conjecture argument in my mind. Okay, well, are we charting actual price sentiments, or are we charting the sentiment of the growth of an information technology? Because they would lead me to believe very vastly different things about the next move. Information technology, when it moves in exponential S-curves, and it's deflationary by nature. All technology is deflationary. Bitcoin is no special in that particular regard. It's special unto itself in the way that you can basically stop what we call the double spend issue, which again creates a type of digital scarcity that we have never seen before. But information technology unto itself is inherently deflationary. So if it's just information technology, it's very easy to see that we could run up very quickly. This might be the last little breakout that we see. But if it's not, if we're actually charting sentiments, I do suspect, again, that the downside of around $6,500 will come into play, and again, that might come in after the $9,400. This is why it's important to watch these patterns, because we're not going to know which way it breaks until it gives us that signal. Now again, we didn't rise up a whole lot. Now normally I would rather see multiple breakouts at this area between 83.20 and 84.40 with the last bumps, but they've been actually getting lower. There's a reason to believe that these have actually been getting lower in the triangle itself as well, because we don't have as high a highs. We have higher lows, but not as high of highs. Again, very interesting to keep an eye on these things. Technical analysis isn't always the easiest indicators to tell, especially when you're doing pattern charting like this, because these patterns can break out to either side. So again, just keep a close eye on this triangle. It'll give you the directions once you know. But again, this area right here on the hourly EMAs of the bear claw, this is also a very important area to watch out. You don't even need the triangle there to see that this little bounce here, if it turns south, could move south quite quickly. The other thing that's kind of a little worrying is that we have a rising price and a falling RSI. And we haven't been all that oversold here in quite some time. We've actually only dipped below the oversold, and the last time we went down to 7,000 on whatever, I guess whoever decided to dump a bunch there and take some profits. Now, again, just keeping your eyes on the charts all the time is probably one of the easiest ways to learn, because trading is difficult. What's difficult about trading isn't necessarily analyzing the markets and trying to decide where they're going to go. It's actually emotionally executing and deploying your ideas properly, and either entering or exiting a trade without getting too, I guess, profoundly confused by your emotions themselves. That's always the most difficult part. So taking a look at Litecoin here as well on the daily, actually, we'll go back out. We had seen this nice little bounce off the exponential moving average of our bear claw here. It was a nice quick bounce. Again, we were looking for a bunch of these bounces. It represented only a 20% move, but that's still quite large. Again, obviously, these are very, very short-term trades to be in. This was only a matter of 3 days to pull off that 20% before you would exit. Again, we hit the top of the bear claw and turned around right quick. Now again, it looks like we're testing the middle area of the bear claw. Again, this is extremely important. It's hard to see, but you see these orange colors over here, and this is how we bounced right off the center of these orange colors that get more orange and yellow as we go down. That represents the middle of the EMAs. So a real test of Litecoin is going to have to break above the 13,000 Satoshi mark to give us any more uproom indicators. And again, this is all highly reliant upon what Bitcoin's going to do next. So there was the potential for a cup and handle, and it looks like Litecoin may be actually making that handle move now. Generally, handles are a little bit not as deep as this one. I would have usually suspected a handle to only go about that deep. But again, because we're charting against Bitcoin, you have to keep a close eye because they do run in sync with each other. Again, that's actually becomes a lot more noticeable and obvious when you give yourself the weekly time frame and you look back to 2013. You can see that Litecoin has never broken out, well, at least in the past few years, above this 0.02 so 20,000 Satoshi mark. So again, there's a clear indicator that to break out of here could potentially be a very large move, but also to break out of there would be very difficult because Litecoin has stayed at lower than 0.02 Bitcoin for a long time. That's 20,000 Satoshis. So on the upside, it could be monumental, but to break out of there, you would need a lot of momentum coming into this space. And I'm just not sure that we see that right now. So this cup and handle may actually be invalidated over the next little while if we break this EMA line. If we come down and break this EMA line here, the cup and candle has been totally invalidated. Again, we've seen that Litecoin shoots up and then drops back down quite demonstrably so in terms of price. There's a 60% drop here. And again, this is versus Bitcoin, not US dollars. Again, my goal in trading in the crypto space isn't really worrying about how many US dollars I have, just as long as we're increasing Satoshis, it makes sense to me. So again, Litecoin has shown these big drops in Bitcoin price generally as Bitcoin moves up. So it's good to keep an eye on both of these here because they do move in lockstep. Again, I think, so Litecoin actually fits in our investment thesis for the rest of the tokens you can see on the right hand side. So for those of you that are part of the private Bear Den members, you'll already know what I'm talking about. And it's the new newsletter that we're going to be releasing in just a few days. So for all of you that are in the private member, thank you for being so supportive. Again, keep your eyes on your inbox as we get close to the first of the month. If you guys haven't signed up and you're interested to do so, you can go to arcanebear.com/club and we'll be going from there. A lot of people, we actually had a really smashing review come in the other day. Well, actually, we get a few smashing reviews every now and then. But the point of this is, the trading chat itself is probably one of the most valuable areas because there's so many different levels of people that have been trading that are there to help out. They're leaving notes and ideas. So it's not just me that makes the community strong. There are a bunch of other traders in there that really push the value of the community. And that's what makes it a sweet place to be, is the fact that when you invest in something, even if it's a little bit, like $30 a month isn't a whole lot, you care that much more, and caring that much more is actually a huge difference. We've been told from many people that it's one of the best trading groups to be a part of because people are so supportive. It's not just Moon Lambo talk. There's actually individuals that care whether you're doing well or not, and that's hugely beneficial when you're learning because they're not just, oh, you did, look at the stupid thing you did, which is what a lot of people do when you join trading groups. It's like, oh, I just wrecked, or oh, we're going to the moon, and you don't want any of that. It's really hard to find what center might be, and that's what generally most people are looking for. Anyways, I'm going to take a quick look at Ethereum here too. So Ethereum, we had been charting Ethereum here with you guys the last time. We had looked for that jump up to around 3.2 million Satoshis, which we did get. We very, very quickly bounced off of that area. Let's see, was right around 3.3 million Satoshis is where we had our first two lines drawn in for profit taking there for you guys, although I was not riding this wave. We do help chart for all of the private members. Again, the notes don't always get updated because sometimes these moves are just way too quick to even write about. For those of you that are in the private Bear Den, you saw that exactly happen with Raven. We made an entry around 580 and then exited less than 24 or less than 48 hours later. The trade was opened and closed, right? So essentially, sometimes the moves are just way too quick. That's why we don't suggest most people play in that particular space. It's high risk, high reward, and it happens very fast. Now, there are longer term ideas which we find very, very useful. So for instance, Raven is the perfect example for both of these short and long term ideas. On the short, we had been watching, on the short term, we had been watching for this particular bounce here, which represented a 40% gain, and then we saw that as soon as we bounced off of the 200 EMA line. Again, we were looking for that specifically in the private Bear Den member, so we saw it, we took the profit, and then we exited. Now we're bouncing off of this EMA line again here, and we're finding support with Raven. Now, what I really like about tokens like Raven, and these fit beautifully into our investment thesis, is we wait for these really long-term downtrends to come in. So I do suspect that Raven probably has another 70 to 80 days of downtrend, which will bring us to approximately the 451 Satoshi area. Although with this new 200 EMA line that's been presenting itself, if we bounce off here one more time and show that there's a large amount of support, this degradation and consolidation in price may actually be different for the first time. But again, for those of you that have been in the private Bear Den member for a while, we've been in Raven twice now for both these runs. We had entries coming around 450 to 480, again after the breakout on the daily that we saw here, and this represented a 300% run where just for the next 36 days you held your position and waited for these high. We had a hot price with prices. See here, you can see what I was talking about as well. This is called a bearish divergence, where you have a higher price but a descending RSI. This was a clear indicator that we were near the top, and we closed all of our position right here at this red line, which is around 1200 Satoshis. So again, we look for pretty much not exact tops or bottoms, but anywhere in those ranges represent a huge move. Again, if you were to look at just that middle ground move, that was around 200%. From top to bottom of Raven, like if you got at the very, very bottom and got over to the very, very top, it's a 400 and 500% move in 33 days. These are much easier trades to look for. Now, what's difficult for most people is, again, understanding the thesis behind this, which is look for depreciated assets that have been going down. As soon as you see a rise in volume, and then more importantly, a breakout through the cloud, however you guys measure your cloud on the daily, there's a few different ways to do that, that signals something very big for us. Now, Raven fits in this thesis because it's a token we believe long-term will do really well. And if you use CoinGecko here, to do a little bit of research on tokens like Raven, you'll see why they're very interesting. First off, it's sitting in the top 50, and it only has a $185 million market cap. Now, historically speaking, if we go back over the last year and we look at the market cap, you can see that both spikes in price correlate to market cap basically adjustments. So here we were, let's actually give us a little bit more length back here. It'll make it much clearer to see the picture. Here we were back in February. There we go. There's the first one. September. This was the first bounce up. We saw a market cap of around $28 million. We saw a 400% move, and then the market cap went to $108 million. It consolidated over the next few months with the market cap dropping down $60 million, and then again spiking back up to around 194 to 220 million, and then again has been in a little bit of a decline to around $184 million in market cap today. The reason this is interesting is because when you have low cap coins like this, there are exponential possibilities because you don't need to put a whole lot into these companies for them to go up. And we do know Raven Coin, as well as a few others, have big backers behind them. Anyways, we won't go too deep into that because the private Bear Den members will know exactly what I'm talking about. And again, the rest of those that fit in our thesis look very tasty right now. So I'm going to take a look at some of your guys' thoughts and questions. We'll put Bitcoin back up on the daily here. For Ethereum, again guys, I only look for really short-term trades in Ethereum or Litecoin as well. The same thing like we do with Raven. I don't want exposure to those tokens for longer than I have to. As soon as there represents even a 4 or 5% gain, we move everything back into Bitcoin because it is essentially our savings account, which means we can move it around and it feels a lot safer. Put it in your little Trezor dingy dongies or your ledgers or whatever you happen to store your Bitcoins in. Anyways, let's take a look at some of your guys' thoughts and questions. Jenny Lewis says, how's your new girlfriend? Oh, well, she's quite a bit younger than me, so I'm taking it very slow and very patiently. She's an amazing woman. I'm very, very grateful for that. But she's also going traveling for the next month or two after this too. So just being patient, give as much space. Try not to make anything up in my mind that doesn't happen too quickly. But it's going great. We both like Tool and A Perfect Circle. That's always a bell ringer for me when you put on A Perfect Circle. And she's like, oh, I love this band. I love A Perfect Circle. Turn it up. I'm like, oh, great. Can I buy you a ring? Anyways, so things are going nicely. It's always good to have affection in your life. And for those of you that have other loved ones, remember to tell them that you love them. Very important people to have around. Let's see. June could be filled with action. Yes, we agree as well. That's why we try to do this every day, so everyone can just keep your eyes on the prize, which is learning as much as you possibly can so you don't get wrung out in the waves that are coming. I'm going to take a look at a few more of you guys' thoughts and questions here. Wonder if Samsung Coin or Huawei Coin. Well, for those that are interested, Huawei has basically been kicked out of the U.S. markets, and it's going to be very difficult for them to recover almost at all, because that means they can't buy most of their parts for their phones. Hey, over there, remember to give us the thumbs up, or if you like this content, and if you don't, give us a thumbs down. Who cares? As long as you thumbs up or thumbs down, YouTube loves that, and so do we. Thank you guys all for joining us today. I really appreciate it. I will continue to scroll through the questions here. Long-term products, crypto, hemp, yes, this is true. Banks fail, blah, 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 blah. I'm a Tool fan. Oh, shout out to all the Tool and the Perfect Circle fans while we're on that topic. Grateful to have you guys part of the family. Beautiful. So I'm gonna keep the day short. I'm really grateful for all of your guys' support. The Sunday morning jams, again, for those of you that are interested, you can join our free Telegram channel. We've got a great community there, and again, the private bear den is such a great place. I'm very grateful to be a part of it. Again, there's so many different levels of traders and supportive individuals that are in there. It just feels great to be a part of, again, because it's to see you guys all helping out one another, where one person asks a question and then, you know, there's three of you that come back and make, you know, very supportive answers. That's such an inspiring thing to see. It makes me know that the community that we've built is interested in helping everyone and not just interested in being egotistical maniacs, which I seem to be the worst at out of the group. So hey, if I'm the measuring stick for how bad things can be, there's a lot of really great people in the Arcane Bear family that are far exceed my talent as well as support. So thank you guys all for joining us today. This is Teal with the Arcane Bear. I hope you have a wonderful day. Go out, enjoy the sunshine, go surfing, go snowboarding, whatever it is you like to do. Plant some plants, grow some food. This is Teal with the Arcane Bear, signing off for the rest of the afternoon. I thank you guys. We'll see you on the other side. Bye.